9. Pressing pause on people-pleasing. Mantra. It is a fact, and not a failing, that I cannot please everyone. I'm going to share a poem I wrote a few years ago. I didn't write it to share it with any eyes other than my own, so if you'd have told me I'd be sharing it in a book one day, I would have said no chance. But the wonderful thing is that the more we work on our self-esteem, the less we fear what others think of us. So I'm sharing this poem in the hope it might empower you as you continue the journey of working on your self-esteem. This poem is all about the fact that we weren't brought into this world purely to meet the needs and feelings of others. Remember, addressing people-pleasing isn't about me first. It's simply me too. I hope that you feel your shoulders unclench and your spine straighten as you read through. Take your space. A string of sorry falling from my lips, an unconsidered reflex for brushing your leg with my bag as I walked by. A single seat left on the tube, tired legs and pregnant bump ignored by myself, but not by others. Standing resolute, a teen with a confident swagger collapses into space I didn't claim. She knew she was worth it. Imposter syndrome. You'll discover I'm not worthy of your cost of time and energy, so I'll not rudely shatter your momentary illusions. I'll just sit quietly. You'll find your own way to my conclusion soon enough. Swallowed words, too many spoken over, mown down by a barrage of other people's noise, misunderstood, leaving me with echoes of my own dialogue in my mind, louder voices drowning out stuttered attempts to verbalize, step back, and shut down. It's so much easier to be less than to relentlessly fight for space amongst them all. Silence needs. I'll meet them myself. Why burden another with my words and wants when I can silently scrape together my own resources? Furious self-sufficiency maketh man a lonely island. Words of others like sticky post-it notes, assumed as truths and ruminated over until they become tattooed onto a heart that couldn't fight them as false. Surely the minority, uttering spiky words or causing unintentional pain, a better place to tell me who I am, to see the bad in my good. Hey, I'll let you assign my price. Accepting gifts with an awkward shuffle and blushing cheeks, compliments ricocheting off the heart like pebbles skimmed off a taut sea, bending a burden backwards, spewing saccharine sentences I don't even believe so that you like me. You could write poetry about your like for me. It won't be enough for me to believe that that's your truth. You wish you were older, a little bit taller, somewhat quieter, a lot more wiser, much more patient, less outrageous, lower maintenance, more contagious. I need to be more. I need to be less. Stop. No more envying those walking, taking space and talking sentences without apology, claiming seats without a sorry, requesting quenching water without a tensing of the shoulders. No more swallowing words out of fear as to whether they will be mistaken or misunderstood, which they may. In fact, they will. But that is not a reflection of the value of them being heard. You are a messy complexity of humanity with needs and wants and sometimes profanity, of ugliness and sweat and space and pride and love and need, and that's okay. Flex the muscle of your voice. Throw out your arms and claim your space that was yours all along. Stop ending sentences with questions and prefixing with just, because you are never just anything. Exercise the sinews of your voice box. No speaking in whispers and avoiding confrontation. Don't devalue your innate worth with apologies and intonations. Learn to grow, to love your powerful voice as a lioness recognizes the authority of her roar. The thoughts and feelings of others about you are neither facts nor your business, just seen through their scratched grey lenses of experience, the one you see them through too, mind you. We all do. Unshrug those shoulders. You don't need to shrink into yourself anymore. Stop chipping away at a body that takes up precious inches, because you are of more value than all the space you could ever inhabit. Laugh freely, regardless of snorts and tears. Your joy is worth experiencing, and each peal of laughter will become easier, even if it's only you who understands the joke. Walk stronger. Hold your head higher. Line lips in crimson red and wear colour, or don't. But if you don't because you don't want to, not because you want to, but fear being seen. Your purpose might feel entangled and confused, but you have purpose all the same. That's a promise. You don't need to be less. You don't need to be more. Take your space. Take your space without apology, without bended knee or slipping into the comfort of the background. Grow slowly but surely into yourself. You are never just. So this is what this chapter is about. The biggest and most obvious external shift that has come with working on my self-esteem has been in the way I relate to others. For most of my life, I felt less than, and this came out in pretty much every single interaction I had. My main aim was to please. I felt worthless and worth less than others, so I needed to work extra hard to earn acceptance and approval. Nurturing self-esteem allows you to enjoy healthier and more balanced relationships. But what does this look like? And how do you start to do things differently if your main priority has been to please others? I'm going to answer that question for you. I'm also going to touch on the unspoken costs of these changing too. What is people-pleasing? Whenever I go to people's houses, even just for a cup of tea, I take a gift. My friends tell me not to. I'm in debt, so I shouldn't. But I feel really guilty that they are hosting me. It's a way of repaying their kindness. Anonymous. When I talk about people-pleasing, I'm not just talking about those moments in which you please others. I'm talking about when pleasing others becomes a lifestyle, a purpose, or the main way you spend your energy. For many of us people pleasers, there is a deep fear that comes with displeasing people. So much so that we do almost anything to avoid it, even if people pleasing comes at the cost of our own mental health and happiness. I call myself a people pleaser in recovery. I will always be in recovery, like an addict who knows that if they step away from their recovery program, they will likely fall back into the behavior from which they've tried so hard to save themselves. I must always monitor this impulse in myself because it costs too much not to. People-pleasing has cost me a lot. For as long as I can recall, I've believed this to be my sole purpose in life, to please others and keep them happy. For very many years, I neglected and overlooked my needs, feelings, and unique character in order to please others. I hoped this could somehow compensate for the fact that deep down, I believed myself to be unlovable and unworthy. When I talk about people-pleasing, I'm not speaking from the perspective of someone who has mastered it, but of someone who is constantly coaching herself through it with varying degrees of success and who always will be. People-pleasing is when you gain your self-esteem from how others see you. It's the calculation that your worth is the sum of what others think. If someone is pleased or happy as a direct result of what you've done, this makes you feel worthy and acceptable. However, if someone is displeased, judgmental, hurt, or unhappy with you, the result is the absolute opposite, and your self-esteem is sent plummeting. Looking to please others to boost your self-esteem is like investing all your money, every single penny of it, in an incredibly volatile stock market. 1 minute, your quid's in. The streets are paved with gold and you have a spring in your step. Yet the next, you're wondering how on earth you're going to pay for a carton of milk. The warm glow of knowing I've made someone happy is like golden honey inside my body, oozing down from my chest to my feet. But displeasing someone? Suddenly my heart rate rockets, my shoulders tense, and I feel sick and agitated. It's like white noise buzzes in my ear, and I can focus on nothing else. As I speak about this, it reminds me exactly of how I described the feeling of shame in chapter 6. How about you? When you give others the power to tell you who you are, to assign your price, you put your heart in their hands. They could massage it or throw it against the wall. Displeasing others taps into feelings of shame and a sense of worthlessness. We can learn to gently coach ourselves through these moments. Know this, you are not the sum of what people think. You are not the sum of how others behave towards you, neither positively nor negatively. You are more than that which can be defined by the fleeting, changing thought of another. People pleading. I once heard someone describe people pleasing as people pleading. It struck me because I'd always considered my behaviour to come from a place of giving, not needing. I'd seen my people pleasing as a sort of charitable behaviour, but calling it pleading made it sound kind of needy. On further reflection, I realised that of course there is something transactional about people pleasing. In truth, the reason I was giving myself so freely to others was because I wanted something back from them that meant more to me. I valued their opinion over my resources. People pleasing puts a pressure on the receiver. For example, say I agree to make a birthday cake for a friend's child. Despite the fact we have other commitments over the weekend, I know it will be challenging and that I don't really have time, but I feel compelled to say yes. I then spend hours in the kitchen, stressed and snappy, making cake layers between organising play dates and having to dash out for extra ingredients before the shop shut. I ice the cake late at night through tired eyes. I hand it over to a brief, "Oh, thank you so much, it's wonderful." Enter those familiar feelings of resentment and hurt that come when I can't really afford the yes that I've offered. However, my friend doesn't know the real cost of that cake to me, the hours and energy poured into it. She will have assumed that if I said I could do it, then I must have had the available time and resources to bake it. After all, I am responsible for placing the boundaries around my resources, me, and only me. Yet I needed more thanks and acknowledgement from her than she knew to give. In baking that cake, I was giving more to her than she would have ever been willing to ask for had she known my diary. Say I agreed to make the cake because I knew I had the time to do it. It wasn't stressful. In fact, it was enjoyable. I handed it over to a simple thank you and walked off happy. There was no hidden cost. Resentment and hurt sit in the gap between what we give and what we hope to get. When you place boundaries around what you give, what you get in return has less influence on your self-esteem. Characteristics of people-pleasing. Here are some characteristics of people-pleasing behavior. See if any of them resonate. There's no need to score yourself. It's not an assessment. A people-pleaser may be described as thoughtful, sensitive, empathetic, always willing to help, a good listening ear, the agony aunt or uncle, dependable, loyal, caring, kind, a peacekeeper. A people pleaser may experience a drive to put everyone first, regardless of the cost. Apologize profusely even for things that aren't their fault. Say yes when they mean no. Avoid hurting or upsetting others, even if it costs them significantly. Dissect social interactions to reassure themselves that they haven't upset anyone. Feel anxiety, stress, or shame if they feel misunderstood or believe they've caused upset. Avoid expressing true feelings, opinions, needs, or emotions that may cause conflict or disagreement. Choose to agree with others, even if they think differently. Be kinder to others than they are to themselves. Reject compliments. Avoid asking anything of others. Avoid confrontation. Reject offers of support and generosity. Display different characteristics depending on who they are with. Quickly correct anything they may have done wrong. Defend themselves by preempting attack and doing whatever they can to appease people. Seek compliments, affirmation, and reassurance. Move their own personal boundaries according to the situation. But what's wrong with pleasing others? One of my worries about addressing my drive for people-pleasing was that I'd be transformed into some kind of outspoken, brash bully who demands the world to move aside for them. It's true that there is nothing wrong with pleasing others. The challenge comes when pleasing someone else is driven by your need to gain a sense of approval, validation, or acceptance, or that the thought of displeasing someone finds you feeling invalidated and unacceptable, not just to that individual, but as a person. You don't need to change shape to please the world. The cost of continually denying yourself in order to please others is high, because the cost is you. You are the cost. Your authentic self becomes the collateral damage, the denied, the neglected, the overridden. For me, pleasing others wasn't so much a choice as an absolute necessity. My self-esteem had become so enmeshed in how others felt about me that I had to do all that I could within my power to keep those around me happy, comfortable, and pleased. If I didn't, who was I? Today, even though I'm still working on my people-pleasing tendencies, my drive to please others is generally different. It's more of a choice than a necessity. I want to please others because it feels good, because it's kind and it makes life nicer. Sometimes it does cost me, and it is sacrificial, and it means choosing to prioritize the needs of others over my own. However, it's still my choice, and my boundaries are in a different place. Whilst I may put aside my own needs or feelings, I will not, or at least I try not to, neglect who I am. Sometimes, in order not to neglect myself, I have to risk displeasing someone by holding my boundaries. I may have to disagree with them or say no. I may have to express my hurt or disappointment. I may have to seek or accept support, knowing that I'm making demands on another person's resources in some way. Working on my internal dialogue and trying to treat myself with kindness and respect are what enable me to navigate these different challenges. For example, if I feel I've displeased someone, where my internal dialogue might once have branded me a failure and unworthy of good friendship, it now tries to restore balance and bring a compassionate perspective. Choosing how to respond. The ways in which you treat and speak to yourself form the foundation from which you respond to challenges and influence where you place your boundaries in relationships. Listen to chapters 7 and 8 for a refresh on this. If your self-esteem is at a low, you're far more likely to want to please others in order to boost it, even if this is at your own expense. If your self-esteem is in a healthy place, you're more likely to be able to coach yourself through those challenging moments, seeing them for what they are, rather than letting them become statements of who you are. Here's another example. Say my friend has sent me a text message asking if we can chat, as she's had an argument with her boyfriend. I'm finishing off some work and was about to jump in the shower before meeting my husband for a long-awaited date night dinner. People-pleasing feeling. I have to call her now. She needs me. I don't want her to think I'm not there for her. She might be upset with me. People-pleasing behavior. I call her immediately as I want to be there for her. Cost. I haphazardly finish my work. I don't have time for the shower I'd been putting off all day. I shove on an outfit that I later realise is dirty. I turn up sweaty, rushed and late for dinner. I feel resentful and irritated at my friend for taking up so much time when I was in a rush for a dinner my husband and I have been trying to diarise for months, even though she has no idea about this. Now for an alternative. Internal discussion. I don't have to call her now. She needs me and I can be there for her, but I want to be able to focus properly on what she has to say. I'm in a rush now and have somewhere to be. Now is not the best time, but I can make time. Behavior. I text her back. Oh, love, I'm sorry things are tough. I'm dashing around right now, but I can give you a quick call in the car on the way to dinner. Otherwise, we can chat properly on the phone in the morning or meet for a coffee at 9 once I've dropped the kids off at school. Let me know. Thinking of you. Kiss, kiss, kiss. Cost. An hour of my time talking through the argument, but she is my friend. I love her, and I really want to be there for her. So sure. It costs my time and attention, but it's a price I am very willing to pay. In this situation, putting healthy boundaries around my giving doesn't turn me into a dismissive ogre. I don't end up ignoring my friend's needs. It just means that I pause to look at the bigger picture in this scenario and assess the cost of acting immediately. When you address people-pleasing, your reactions become less fear-driven and more considered. What's more, you challenge any assumptions or fears about whether good relationships can or cannot withstand healthy boundaries. It might help to know that when you have been living so far at one end of the people-pleasing spectrum, you are incredibly unlikely to swing straight to the other end. Be kind to yourself as you navigate this transition. It takes time. It's about trial and error, and it's a new way of responding to situations. There can be throwbacks and repercussions as you establish new boundaries and start saying no where you may have before said sure. People-pleasing and perfectionism. Zena said, I think I managed 31 years of being nice to everyone and terrified of getting anything wrong until I had nothing left in myself to give. Things had to change. I had to exist for more than other people and high standards. If you're a perfectionist and a people pleaser, then you'll likely be utterly exhausted. The two can be so intertwined. To be a perfectionist in pleasing others is a relentless pursuit. When your self-esteem is based upon how well you do and how much you please others, you will forever be trying and often feeling disappointed. Hopefully, as you address perfectionism and find the truth in the fact that you are neither the sum of what you do nor how well you do it, you'll see this positively shift your people-pleasing drive. People-pleasing is about perfectionism applied to relationships. No's can be nice. Ali says, sometimes it's awkward to say no, but it's the right thing, and I feel my shoulders drop and some stress exit my body. It's like a physical thing for me. When you say no, you can do it gently. Consider the fact that not every no has hurt you in the past or felt like a rejection. When you say no, you are giving yourself the opportunity to respect the other person through not saying yes and then doing something resentfully. Saying no means that you can say yes to other things, such as another opportunity, a clearer diary, or simply enjoying a rest. That said, it's absolutely fine to say yes. Just take a moment to question what is driving your reply. Are you saying yes because you feel fearful? For example, I'm worried you'll feel rejected and like me less. You feel obligated even though you aren't. For example, I don't want to go to the wedding of an acquaintance who bullied me at school, but she asked, so I feel obliged. You need to because it's required of you. For example, I don't really feel like going to work, but I must. You choose to spend your energy in that way. For example, I am tired, but this friend means a lot to me, and I choose to spend my energy on this relationship. There are so many variables that come with each situation. Sometimes your no might cost you a lot or genuinely hurt the other person. You may regret it or feel utterly empowered by it. You may receive pushback. Oh, come on, you did it last time. Or be surprised to find your refusal happily accepted. Today, it might be fine to say yes to something that you would have said no to yesterday. The important thing is that you take yourself into consideration when you reply, rather than completely overlooking yourself. It's all a learning process. Here are some gentle responses I find helpful. Let me get back to you. I need to check the diary. This gives me a moment to think and means I'm less likely to jump in with a yes when perhaps I mean no. I can't make that day. So what about next week? Thank you so much for asking, but I'm all right for the moment. I'm tired and need an evening to reset, but would love to do another time. The fact of the matter is that for me, it's so important to continue learning how to assert healthy boundaries and say no. A huge motivator for me in addressing this is that I want my own children to feel comfortable asserting their boundaries too. I hate to imagine my little girl ending up in some of the compromising situations I found myself in, with my timid no hovering deep in the bottom of my stomach and being fearful of giving it a voice in case I offended anyone. I even worried about offending those who were offending me. No. I will continue to work on this so that my children know that while showing kindness and respect to others is key, they deserve to be shown kindness and respect too. And sometimes that means saying no. Recognizing the cost of people-pleasing. I stayed in a relationship for 8 years that wasn't right for me because I was worried about hurting him if I broke it off. It all came to a head in a way messier way than if I'd have done it years earlier. Anonymous. I want you to take a moment to consider the cost that people-pleasing has had for you. I'm talking about the times you said yes or gone along with something when the best and most respectful thing for yourself would have been to assert your boundaries. This is because when we say yes, but we mean no, we are turning away from ourselves. If all of our actions and decisions are statements about our perceived worth, what are you saying to yourself? I've heard people say, Anna would cut off her right arm to help someone else. You know what? I would have, and I did. Metaphorically speaking, many times I've cut off my metaphorical right arm in order to help, please, appease, or ease. Yet what happens to me? I'm left with no right arm. Although my right arm is a pretty darned important part of my body, sure, I might have pleased someone else or avoided a confrontation, but the cost to me is huge. How will I carry washing down the stairs, cuddle my kids, swim? Are you cutting off your right arm for something that, when you think about it, isn't deserving of the cost? Today you might say, Anna, it would make me so happy if you cut off your right arm for me. And I'd reply, I wish you'd accept something less. A cake, a chat perhaps, or a hug. But you want my arm? You're just going to have to be unhappy then. Your happiness cannot depend on something that costs me so highly. I'm keeping my arm. Yet, if my child's life depended on my right arm, sure, take it. It's worth the cost. Sometimes my arm is my time, my energy, my finances, my mental health, my diary space, my rest, my headspace. Sometimes my energy is particularly expensive because I don't have much of it. Like fuel at the pump, the price goes up with the demand. Be wary of paying far too high a price through people pleasing. Saying no to an event might cost you awkwardness, disappointment, a change in friendship dynamic, or irritation. Yet it might also gain you self-respect, self-esteem, an opportunity to rest, more headspace and energy to put back into the things that matter most. It's better to be rejected for demanding respect than to be accepted whilst rejecting yourself. The benefits of having your nose and your boundaries in better places. So said, I was the person everyone would come to for favours because I'd never say no. I was scared friends would think I didn't care about them, but I just ended up feeling used and a bit hurt. So I started to say no when I couldn't, and yes, when I was happy to. It's like I never saw no or I can't this time as an option. When your boundaries are a little firmer and your no thank yous become a little easier, then your life changes too. It becomes more sustainable as you hop off the overwhelm roller coaster. You have more energy to live, love, and laugh. Have you ever felt too tired to laugh? By addressing people pleasing, you are literally giving yourself the gift of enjoying the good things in your life more often. And you are giving those who care about you more of a chance to enjoy you too. My family enjoy me so much more when my boundaries and my nose are in the right places. I'm less irritable, stressed, burnt out, and exhausted. I owe it to myself. I owe it to them. When you say yes, when a no thank you would be most beneficial, you can feel frustrated, resentful, self-critical, used, or disempowered. These feelings can drive your self-esteem down. When you put a healthy boundary in place, while sometimes it can seem hard and make things tricky to navigate, you can end up feeling empowered, self-respecting, preserved, and energized. What's more, your self-esteem enjoys a boost because you have acknowledged and respected your thoughts, needs, and feelings. Giving, sacrificing, and spending your resources can become a conscious choice instead of a consistent, fear-driven, knee-jerk reaction. Life and people will always want something from you, but you have finite resources. We need to stop living as if our resources are infinite because it is expensive to live this way. It costs a lot to give what you haven't got to give. It costs you, and you're worth far more than spending all your resources on pleasing others. You deserve to be pleased and supported too. Someone doesn't like you. Kira says, I can't stand the thought of someone thinking something bad about me. You know what? I felt guilty even typing someone doesn't like you. I'm sure you are the loveliest of people, and that I would really enjoy sitting on the sofa and chatting over a cuppa with you. That I do not doubt for a single second. And I hate thinking that anyone might not like me. Yet it's something I'm having to consistently, over and over again, come to terms with. I expressed a dislike for green tea on social media once, and I was hit with a barrage of green tea lovers suggesting ways I might enjoy it. Try it with lemon, try it iced, add honey, leave the tea bag in longer. The thing is, no offence to the leafy beverage, but it's just not my cup of tea. Pardon the pun. Now, because I don't like green tea, does it mean that green tea is inherently bad? Should it be removed from all the shelves because Anna Martha in Surrey, England, isn't a fan? No, because many people like green tea. Just because I'm not a fan isn't a statement about whether it deserves to be on the shelf. I'm not that special. Yet why then? If we know we're not someone's cup of tea, do we take it as a statement of truth? Are they really that special that they get a right to say whether we are good people or not, worthy or not, acceptable or not? One frame of a film. Ang Harrod says, "When my mum challenges me, I listen. She knows and loves me better than anyone, even if it hurts a bit to hear." Now, if you're like me, and the thought of someone not liking you feels a bitter pill to swallow or makes you shuffle in your chair as you think of some way to try to win them over, I want to share a light bulb moment I had a few weeks ago. It has been a game changer for me. Imagine if I were to discourage you from watching a film as your finger hovered over the remote to press play. "Oh gosh," I say, "don't watch that one. The plot's weak. The main actor doesn't say a thing, and there's absolutely no chemistry between the couple." Would your finger waver on the play button? Perhaps you'd skip that film and continue the hunt for your evening viewing. Then imagine if you discovered I'd only actually caught 5 seconds of the whole movie. My entire review is based on less than a scene of the whole shebang. What would that do to the trustworthiness of my review? It would make it meaningless. How can I so confidently review a film I haven't even watched? You'd probably decide in that case that you quite like the look of it and you'll give it a shot. Fair enough. We often place so much value on the feedback of those who only glimpse mere moments of our entire lives. I have felt the judgmental glances of fellow supermarket shoppers when one of my kids has had a tantrum over not getting a gingerbread man. Sure, they may judge, but they don't know the full story of my morning or my son, so their judgment only really has the same amount of value as my rubbish film review. Goodness me, I've given away one hell of a lot of power in my lifetime. Empowering people who don't even know me to tell me what I am worth. Now, I'll tell you whose feedback I do value. And that's the feedback of those people in my life who have viewed more than just a single scene. I value the feedback of those individuals who've taken time to understand the plot and who've sat through the boring credits when most people would have switched off. These are the people who know me, know my story, my heart, and my intentions, who are more experienced than me and who want the best for me. They are the kind of people who can frame their feedback or criticism in a kind and considerate way because they share it with the aim of helping me grow rather than hurting me. But do you know what also hit me as I explored this scenario? Whilst it really helped me reframe how I digested criticism or feedback, it also helped me reframe how I value compliments or praise. As someone who has sought compliments and praise as a means of temporarily increasing my self-esteem, this realization came at me like a rocket. If I am going to believe that the feedback or judgment of those who have only ever seen a single scene or screenshot of my life matters less than I thought, then I must also believe that the compliments or praise of those who have only seen a single scene matter less too. Because the fact of the matter is, nobody else's feedback makes you worth more or less than you already are. Words shared by the right people can be helpful, insightful, supportive, encouraging, affirming, and challenging, but they do not make you worth more. The unspoken costs of change. I mustered up the courage and told my boss I couldn't do so much unpaid overtime anymore. I was tired and had no social life. My worst fear came true. He fired me. Now, I work in a different job. I've got my life back. Anonymous. Imagine watching a sped-up video of a growing oak tree. As it grows from a sapling into a strong, sturdy oak, you watch it gain height and leaves, yet what you don't see is how the roots disrupt the soil below. They reach out, dig down, and spread to accommodate the growth that is seen above the grass. You watch some nearby plants shrivel up as the roots spread beneath them. A nearby bush wilts as the wider canopy of leaves casts a shadow over it. In some places, the earth is slowly pushed up, causing mounds and revealing hints of strong, tangled root. Yet the birds come and build their nests in its branches, and the squirrels use the trunk as a playground. People come to picnic underneath it, finding respite from the hot sun in the cool shade. In spring, daffodils pop up in a circle around the trunk, happy in the fertile earth and protected from harsh elements. Growth changes things. Your growth, and with it, your increased understanding of your worth, your stronger nose and moved goalposts and boundaries will all change things. You'll see growth and balance where before you felt stuck or depleted. Yet growth isn't all happy squirrels and picnics. Sometimes it's ugly. Sometimes certain elements don't last the journey. Moving boundaries changes relationship dynamics. I've seen clients grow in the most incredible ways, but there are sometimes side effects that aren't so comfortable. As people have begun to thrive in who they are, I've seen lovers break up, friendships drift, and resignations handed in. I've seen conflict and hurt, resentment and confusion. When we start to say, you know what, it's actually not okay for you to treat me like that, or perhaps I'm worthy of applying for that job after all, things change. They can't not. Sometimes there is a grief to be grieved, but often it's a healthy grief. What has ended or changed has changed in a good way, albeit uncomfortable or painful. Perhaps it had been causing some kind of pain for a long time. When I began to set limits and boundaries, some people found this challenging to accept. Generally, these were the people who had benefited most from my lack of boundaries. I can imagine that it must feel inconvenient when the person who you used to depend on to always say yes begins to say no sometimes. In one job, I was always the first to volunteer to run additional errands. I wanted to please my colleague. However, the more "I'll do it" I offered, the more my workload stacked up as I spent time away from the computer. Stress and resentment simmered under the surface as I spent evenings catching up at home. So I began to say, I can't today, when running an errand would jeopardize an evening with a friend or find me behind in my work. I was met with irritation as people had to look further afield, but as everyone got used to the fact I didn't always jump up with an "I'll do it," this new boundary was solidified. Givers need to set limits because takers rarely do. It's often not even intentional when people take advantage of people pleasers. Surely, we're all far more likely to ask of those who have a habit of saying yes than those who don't. We generally assume people say yes because they are happy to do what's being asked. We don't see the bigger picture, which includes their packed diary or depleted energy levels. We don't know whether their yes is fueled by fear or willingness. Therefore, we must all learn to take responsibility for our own yeses. Sometimes you may have to set boundaries that other people don't understand because they can't, or they don't have the insight, understanding, or capacity to. Sometimes your boundaries can impact wider friendship groups and families. The ripple effects can travel far and wide. To sum up, I did everything to make Mum happy. I did everything she wanted, lived at home, ate with her every day. I decided to take the job in France. 5 years later, she's still angry. I've had to accept that our relationship will never be the same again. I had to live for more than just her happiness. Anonymous. People pleasing is not an easy topic to speak about in a single chapter. It deserves a whole audiobook. People pleasing and boundary setting can be complicated with no clear sets of rules to follow. As you learn to value your own responses and grow in confidence when setting your boundaries, you'll become more aware of the choices available to you in different circumstances. It's all about awareness. Really, the more aware you become of what you want, need, and feel, and the more you come to terms with the fact that you can't please everyone, the more you'll find yourself respecting your boundaries and inviting others to do the same. I really encourage you to seek support with this issue if you feel it would be beneficial. Listen to the helpful contact section. Whether it be a trusted friend or therapist, you deserve to have guidance, insight, and support if you wish to address experiences and feelings that may have far-reaching, complicated, or painful implications. No healthy form of love, friendship, job, or circumstance would ever require you to live in a constant denial of who you are. You are worthy of respect, both from yourself and from others. Healthy love does not require you to give yourself away. Journal points. How do you feel when you know you've pleased someone? How do you feel when you know you've displeased someone? How has your need to please others impacted you? Consider when you've acted to please others recently. What might you like to do differently if the opportunity arises again? Which of your relationships might be challenged if you were to assert healthier boundaries in them? What support do you have available to help you navigate this?